who wants to show up so we could only, no. We just barely have a quorum, but it's good.
You guys, just so you know, that's on,
Thanks.
and this is on right now.
Oh, good.
Okay?
How does these, what, are these
Exactly,
exactly?
So does that make you our facilitator tonight? Does that make you our facilitator tonight? Awesome. You're the presiding officer. I like it when you preside. I think you're a great facilitator.
He's gonna make it go fast, right? You ready?
I don't see anybody else.
Okay, so hit record right now.
I'll call the meeting to order at 6:30. We have a quorum, but we are missing a few of our folks. They all have excused absences, so I will be presiding tonight. So we have a minimum quorum, so we have enough. So why don't we do the Pledge of Allegiance and get started? The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Counselor Cameron? Here. Counselor Snyder?
Present.
Counselor Baker?
Here.
Counselor Westover?
Here.
Our other counselors have excused absences, and the mayor's on vacation, so he's also excused. The first time since I've been here. Okay. Why don't we start off with our illustrious members of the high school and let us know what they plan to say tonight.
So I'm Gabriel Wilson from the Phoenix High School. Yeah. And so as before, I talked about how it was kind of a jumble with the communication with the school. And so I just emailed the principal and briefly talked with him about the idea of having a meeting with me and Priscilla. And then, so after the spring break, we're gonna have a meeting and get down to the grit of what we're actually doing and what we should be doing, because I don't think it's been met, what we should be doing. And that's kind of what I have to say.
Very good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, sir. Thanks for
Thank you,
doing it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is public comments by people who are going to talk about things that are not on the scheduled part of the agenda. So who do we have that would like to do that?
I signed up on your sheet.
You did. I was just playing with you a little bit.
Nikki Summer Hayes, the 1 West 4th Street, Phoenix. And I'm here because I'm very, very upset about what happened at the planning commission meeting last Monday night. And I have talked to several people. I've talked to LCDC. I've talked to RV-COG. I've talked to the city planner. Talked to city manager, talked to city attorney. And I feel that the process that took place at our meeting was not conducted correctly. So there was problems in the process. And we were told by the city planner not to discuss the issue because it was a quasi-judicial issue. So the issue that I'm talking about is Church Street. And so what normally would happen in the 23 years I've been on the planning commission, this application for a variance, which is under the purview of the planning commission. This is a planning commission issue. It's not a city council issue. It's a planning commission issue. It would have come into us as a request for a variance, And then we would have looked at it and gone over the pros, gone over the cons, and made a decision about whether this, how to deal with the variance. And the criteria, actually, I've got the one paper. So the criteria are there, I think there's six or eight of them, can't remember. Left it at my seat. Criteria for what allows a variance. And some of them are quite stringent. And one of them is that it cannot create a situation where it's going to allow another incident to take place similar. It's gonna start the rolling downhill. That once you've given one variance, you're gonna get hit with more. So you've gone down the slippery slope. And so in the process that we are supposed to be doing, we were supposed to go through every one of those criteria and address it where it met the criteria items. And if it didn't meet any one of those items, we cannot give the variance. And I talked to LCDC and I talked to RBCOG and I looked at all this and we did not do that at that meeting. Now, part of that is probably my fault because it was a tough meeting. And when the motion was made, it was blasted out because the person giving the motion was angry at me. And I turned to the city planner and I said, did you get everything you need in that? Because he just really blasted it out. And he said yes. But when I got home and I started thinking about it, we had not gone through the criteria at all. And I do not believe, at least I can speak for myself, I probably would not have voted in favor of it had I sat and looked at all the criteria and went through them one point by one point by one point, especially the criteria of where we've set a precedence that will get carried over into more variances on our transportation element. Our transportation element is a fairly new transportation element. This wasn't done 20 years ago when everybody wanted great big wide streets and everything. This was only completed, I think, about 4 years ago, I'm not sure. So it isn't that we're expecting the streets of the city of Phoenix to be really wide and, lots of stuff there. But we did set this out, and anything new coming into the city has to meet these requirements, and we have to trust that document that was gone over with engineers and done with all these, done with a lot of care and a lot of thought for what we want the city of Phoenix to look like in 20 years or 30 years. That's the purpose of the planning department, is to look out for our children and our grandchildren. And I really do not think that the process, I just don't think that it went correctly. And I don't think that since the city was the applicant and the city is the one giving the report and the city is the one who you appeal to if you don't like the decision, is almost a conflict of interest in my eyes. I don't understand, and I've tried to figure out how the applicant sits in judgment of itself and how this got done at the city council level and not done at the planning commission level where we have the authority to do it. Because the planning commission is the authority that allows the variance, not the city council. It can get appealed to the city council. It would go to you guys if we did not set out the criteria correctly and follow the criteria correctly. And that just did not happen for whatever reasons. So I did talk to, Josh at RV-COG, and he suggested, that I could suggest to you guys to request that you withdraw the application and then redo the application and let us go through the process with this coming to the planning commission and letting us look at the plan and letting us do the plan, because we're the people that you guys selected to do this, to do the legwork for you, to provide the information for you. And we have a college educated planner to assist us in doing it correctly. And I just really feel that it wasn't done correctly. And it's a conundrum because I do not feel comfortable signing that variance with how the process took place. I don't think we met the criteria. I don't think it was given proper discussion ahead of time, or I mean, in the context of information that we were given, that how much money is it going to cost if we don't widen the street while we have the opportunity? What about the other people in the city of Phoenix are going to be footing the bill for Church Street, and they don't live on it. So Church Street has got 50 or 100 homes, or however many homes are along there, protecting their personal interest, and the rest of the city is going to lose, because that's a major street for the city of Phoenix. So, and I'm not saying that maybe if we redid this, we wouldn't come up with the exact same thing, but it's very possible that we would. The solution that was presented to us from city council might be the solution. But the due diligence, in my opinion, was not done. And I would ask that you withdraw it and that you allow us to redo it. And I would feel so much better about the city of Phoenix looking out for the people of Phoenix, and we get to do due diligence, because we're only gonna have one whack at fixing that street probably in the next 50 years. You know, do we want a skinny street that 2 Amazon delivery trucks can't get past each other? I don't know. So, now answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks for coming to us, Mickey. I don't know if it's appropriate for during public comment to get into a back and forth, but at some point we may be able to like agenda as a conversation.
You would have to do this, put it on the agenda next.
Exactly. So maybe it's for a future agenda item, but thank you for coming in and talking to us. We appreciate you raising the issue.
Well, yeah, I really want to get this straight. I want to get some more input before I sign that, because I am not comfortable with signing that, because I do not think that we did our job.
Okay, thank you. Well, Dave, want to take it on to look into that, see what we need to do for future agendizing if we need to?
You can put it on a future agenda, you could even add it to tonight's agenda, for discussion at the end of the meeting. Well, Mickey is still here.
Right. I would like to, and I would also like to do some more research into what's just been presented before we talk about it today, and make sure that if we do agendize something on a discussion like that, that it's noticed.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda, Krista Peterson, excuse me.
Oh, no comment.
Okay,
Thank you.
and David?
That's me.
David Vanderbilt, I reside at 236 Jared Court in Phoenix. And what brought me back about 5 years ago when Mayor Jeff Della came to our meeting at the Parks and Greenway Commission, and said, well, what are you going to do? What is going on in the city? What can you do to make the city more exciting? And the reason why he said that is because I've been a member of the Parks and Recreation Department. That we didn't do anything. We just sat here and waited for discussions that never seemed to come, so we went to the next meeting 3 months in. So when the mayor talked to us, that started activity, which up to that point there wasn't much as far as, or didn't seem to be much as far as city activity, group activity where people got together to talk, enjoy themselves maybe, or to do something other than come to city council meetings. So we took on the challenge and we started with a dog days event, and then we said, well, what about something we used to do that all cities, all towns used to do, and a lot of towns still do, and it would be an Easter egg event. So we started a dog days event. We looked around, what can we do this? Well, 44 parking spaces at Blue Heron and 50 parking spaces at Culver. So Culver Park won because they had parking spots, although it wasn't adequate. But so we went through the crowd with this year. We hope to do our 5th annual, and we hope it has grown a little bit each year. This year also we plan to do our 4th annual Easter egg hunt event. Facing the same quandary, how many people are we going to have appear? Well, if we advertise it a little bit, there's 44 parking spaces and the 50 parking spaces, there's no way that this is going to work. So we went through channels and held the event at the grammar school, which doesn't have a lot of room. The field was okay. We'll have a little bit of a covered area. Holding this event early in the year, there's always a threat of rain. So, and it worked pretty good. We had over 200 participants. And so we repeated that the following year. We had close to 400 participants. And we said, you know, this school can't hold 400 participants. It's a zoo. We can't do this. So we approached the high school, and we got yeses along the way, went through channels. And so last year we had the event at the high school, and we drew nearly 700 children, and of course the accompanying parents or uncles or what have you that brought the children. The other thing was parking. So anyways, so this worked out real well. Now, the city has held the event, or we representing the city have held the event along with Fire District 5. So I should have brought those yours, but I didn't. So without Fire District 5, without the physical help in doing this, it's pretty near impossible to do. I'm one of 4 members currently. We should have 7. We have 4. I can't say I'm one of the younger members. But I'm also up there, and so are the others. So as far as dragging things around, setting up posts, tables, and so on and so forth, we have to have help from Fire District 5. So when I went to see the new chief, Chief Hanley, he said, well, Talent has approached us and they want to do a safety thing on that day at 11 o'clock, which happens to be the same time that our event kicks off. Now, since we've held this event, Talent has been the only city to not have held an Easter egg event, so I think we're getting some of their kids as well. And so anyways, with Talent holding a safety event and District 5 getting involved with this, in fact, Chief Hanley has also asked our local guy, Matt, if he could help send people to Talent to participate in their event. We are now in a little bit of a quandary, checking with both the chiefs. I'm getting no answers. I'm getting, well, like maybe I can get 3 guys, maybe I can get a couple more. We really need to have about 6 guys, I say guys, people that can carry tables, people that can do a little bit of the logistical stuff. We're hoping to have some high school students from the high school. We did have some last year. But we are looking for adults, firefighter type people like Terry Baker,
Are you a firefighter?
ex-firefighter. It helps to talk to Matt, who's been here a long time. Yeah, so, so you guys are invited. We would really appreciate if you were to take that one. We won't invite you to the dock days. It kind of runs by itself. It's easier. But if you like kids, if you like seeing kids enjoy themselves, if you don't like to see an old guy pulling his hair out, and that would be me, I would appreciate if some of you would show up and maybe at the high school at about 9:30ish. We should be all done by 11:30. Once it starts, it goes pretty quick. Plenty of people with common sense, that's all of you have, who don't panic. And this is kind of the key to the situation. When you're overrun by all of these people, you have to know what the heck you're doing. You have to defend your little station and, make sure that it runs well. So
David, what's the date on that? You said it's at the high school at 9:30.
it's at the high school, and for those of you who are able to make it, and I need to get a hold of the mayor because I didn't know that he was on vacation, so hopefully he'll be there because he's our MC guy. We have our own sound equipment. However, last year I found that it wasn't satisfactory, so this year we have approval from the high school to use their sound equipment, so we should have it out of the way. We're able to use their tables and chairs and so forth, and we will use their students, which last year, hopefully we'll have better luck this time.
I think she was asking what day.
What day? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It'll be on Saturday, the day before Easter, Saturday, March 31st.
Thank you.
March 31st.
Thank you. Okay, great. I'm sure we can get some folks out there, and thank you for all your work putting that together.
Okay, well, thank you for allowing us the opportunity to do so, and that is a funny day to do this.
Thank you very much.
The
Thanks.
chief will be the correct.
I also know that our city recorder has an announcement in lieu of someone who is not here. Would you like to do that now?
That'd be great. So Carolina Marshall is not able to be here tonight, so she wanted me to remind people that the community dinner is this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. They'll be serving beef bourguignon, salad, and a nice dessert.
Is there anybody that came in late after I removed this that needs to come up and talk at this point? I guess not. Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda then. There are 3 items on it. Councilors want to withdraw one? No. Then I need a motion to accept or reject the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Counselor Cameron,
Yes.
Counselor Westover,
Yes.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Schneider.
Yes.
Thank you.
I show nothing under unfinished business, so we'll move on to new business. The first one is monument signs. Does the city have something to say about that?
Well, this item was actually placed on the agenda by the mayor, who is not here. And I think the mayor's intent was to get final council approval to move forward with installing the monument sign as previously designed and approved by the Pura Board. So, there's a little bit of confusion here that I referenced in the agenda report, in that the original design was approved by the Pura Board, not the council. And as far as I know, it's Pura, not the city, that's paying for the monument sign. So I guess there's some jurisdictional question here as to whether this is really the council's decision. In the meantime, a member of the Arts Commission, which is not actually a city board or commission, contacted the mayor and requested an opportunity to review the design and make some recommendations to the mayor or to the council / bureau board. And it was my understanding that they wanted to be on this agenda to show you what they had come up with. We had an email today asking if that discussion can be postponed until April 2nd. So the thing that we might do, we do have a FURA meeting scheduled for April 2nd, and we could perhaps agendize this item for the FURA meeting rather than for the city council meeting. And the city's been working on this for a long time, so hopefully we can make a decision and move forward. I don't know if there's a member of the Arts Commission here who wants to speak to this.
I think it's a good idea to put on the agenda for April 2nd. That way we're taking care of both. We've got people here for both.
So what would be the proper, so I move to postpone to a date certain, no, not even because it's FURA instead of city council. So I just moved to put this on the FURA agenda for April 2nd?
I suppose you could. Well, what you would actually do is direct the city manager to inform the FURA director to place this on the April 2nd.
So we don't even need a vote right now? Is that-
I think both the
No.
city manager and the FURA director got the message.
Okay, great.
Okay, we'll move on to the other item on new business. Discussion of assessment of NWC wholesale rate increase and impact on Phoenix rates. I believe this is informational only, so there's no voting. Who will speak to that tonight?
Good evening, Ray Dees, Public Works Director. Hope you folks had a chance to go through this. It's not hugely technical in any form. We were advised, I think I advised the council earlier last year, sometime last year, that Medford Water Commission was looking to increase their rates for the bulk water purchasers, and we're a bulk water purchaser from Medford Water Commission. Medford had already raised its rates to its ratepayers inside the direct ratepayers, I should say. And they were going through these rounds of rate increases in order to provide a better balance for their forward-looking financial conditions, a lot of it having to do with the large amount of infrastructure improvement they've been putting into the system. One of those reasons is to increase the Duff water treatment plant capacity to create the volume that we need for our growing communities. Back in 2017, the perceived rate increase was probably in the order of magnitude 12 to 13% for us as a bulk water purchaser. That means we get an increase per 1,000 gallons of water that we bring down the highway into our system. There are winter and summer rates. Both of those rates were increased approximately 8 cents a gallon. The average increase is approximately 12 cents a gallon in those terms, but when you look at how we use water and when we use water, the actual percentage that it was increased for our type of usage is approximately 10%. So I'm estimating through our historical data for how and when we use water. The summer months, there's only 4 summer months that they impose a more expensive rate, and 8 winter months. So when you balance that out, how we purchase water comes out to approximately a 10% annual increase on the water purchase for the city. Now looking at our consumption rates and our actually relatively stable consumption rates, even though we've seen some growth in town, we're projecting an increase of approximately 10% for what we buy water for. And in order to address that increase in, it's a straight pass-through number, there's not a whole lot of magic to it. We were looking at increasing our water rates by 1.5% in addition to the already 1.5% increase that occurs on an annual basis. right, 1.6%, I'm sorry. So, in reality, we're looking at, in order to balance out that additional charge coming down the pipe, so to speak, from Medford Water Commission, we're looking for a rate increase this year of 3.1% rather than 1.5%. We also gave a summary of what the effect would be on an average monthly single-family water bill. The current average monthly single-family water bill, the bulk of our rate-paying population, is approximately $45.64. The proposed increase would modify that to $47.05. Translates to approximately $1.40 per month. That's the summary that I want to put out in front of you. I wanted to get this information in front of the council so that we could have an open discussion about it. There are different ways to pay for cost increases. The most direct way, in my experience, has been to discuss what the rate increase would be to balance out the payment that's going to be passed through straight to Medford Water Commission.
Ray, has there been any additional conversation at the Medford Water Commission? So there's a 12%, 12 to 13% increase this year. Or is there any anticipated, is that anticipated to go up annually at that level? Or is this going to be a once in a, couple year?
I think the bottom of the first page there, I also note that there will likely be a similar increase in Medford Water Commission's bulk water rates in 1920 fiscal cycle. It's right now they're not going to refine that until close to next year when they make their rate changes in the beginning of the quarter. But they have a new manager on hand. Very good person to work with, very different from the previous manager. And we have monthly discussions with him as the quote other city bulk water purchasers outside of Medford. And I think his perspective on financial planning, especially long-term financial planning and capital improvement projections and payments, is different than what they've been doing before. So I'm optimistic that if they do have an increase next year, I'm optimistic that it'll be somewhat less than this, but we'll have to wait and see how the income stream plays out with the increases they've already put in place.
Thank you.
So you think it'll be less than the 3% or 12? Less than the 12?
Yeah, less than the 12 next year. This year's already set.
What's your recommendation then? I mean, because nobody wants to have to pay more bills, right? So how can we make it the easiest on people who live here, do you think?
Well, right now we're presenting this for information and discussion.
Yeah, we're not voting tonight.
Are there other ways to address this?
Just got to lump it.
Well, cost increases are happening across the board for our operations. There's no two ways about it. Part of the other costs that we're seeing that are unusual is that since there's a significant amount of construction being done in the valley, the availability of parts and products are not what they used to be, and the cost of them are going up. Delivery costs are going accelerating more quickly than I would have expected. But at any rate, what that does for us is it requires me to put more equipment material on hand, and that's what I've been doing. When I've had an opportunity to get a hold of, meters obviously we need, but pipe, any type of other materials that I can get in bulk and get them when the getting's good. And right now I'm probably going to do that next year as well, because you want to get some of this stuff on the shelf because it's only going to get more expensive. We don't have a huge inventory right now on hand.
Mr. President, if I can address Councilor Baker's question also, Ray and I actually had a conversation around the question of, is there a way that the city can simply absorb this increase without passing it along to the customers? And I think the short answer is yes, you probably could, but I wouldn't recommend it. And the reason for that is the city has a considerable backlog of water line improvement projects that needs to be addressed. And
That was part of my follow-up question.
And if you don't pass this increase through to the customer, and it's really a pretty modest increase, I mean, 3.1% is not that much, then the way you're gonna get the money is by taking it away from this backlog of water line projects, and they're not gonna go away. They're only gonna become more pressing in the issues around
And more
service.
And more expensive, that's a capital improvement project philosophy for the word go. I asked you to do capital improvement projects because we're basically in a risk assessment business. You know, you do these, replace these pipes, it lowers your risk, but those only get more and more expensive as time goes on.
Yeah.
So it's a good balancing act, Dave's got a good point, we discussed it for a while, and that is right, the answer is, yeah, we can absorb it, but do you want to? And that's something.
Sounds like it'll cost us more later if we do.
And that was my concern, is that you avoid a 3% increase now, but then down the road, when you have water mains, leaking and needing to be replaced,
Well, we
all of a sudden
call for a
you're
levy.
looking at raising rates by a lot more than 3%.
Yeah, I get it. Totally get it.
Anyone else have any questions, thoughts, ideas?
So what, I understand that we're not moving forward with this now. What action will be required in the future, and what's the timeline for that?
We'll have a resolution increasing water rates on your next agenda. And I think mostly what we wanted to do at this point was try and get the word out into the community that we're looking at a 3% rate increase.
Mhm.
So don't be surprised when this shows up on your bills in a couple of months.
Sure.
I mean, people will be surprised. But we'd still like to get as much information out as we possibly can in advance.
But you have to understand that 3%, 3.1% is actually two components to it, already built in and the add-on. So in terms of what the people would expect, we know how the system works. It's only 1.5% increase. Expected.
And that number, if it's easier to discuss and digest, I think that it's 3.1%, and being able to say 3% is, I don't think, significant to me anyway, from a dollars and cents standpoint. It's easier if you propose to say it's a 3% increase instead of getting into the percentage points. That's totally up to you.
I think there's a couple of, if you think of this as a math equation, there's a couple of components to it. One is the infrastructure, and not the infrastructure, but the work that you do on the infrastructure has a certain cost to it every time period, year, month, whatever. And then there's the actual cost of the material delivered, which is the water. And what we've been talking about is Medford raising that water itself. And that, the last time I looked, and it might be not correct anymore, was only about 15% of the total bill. The other 85%, or whatever it was, is actually cost for you to do the infrastructure piece on a regular routine basis. So for them, it's a 12% increase of what is amount to a 15% of the equation that we work with. So it's not like the entire work that we're doing is going up by 12%, but you've manipulated that down to having built in a 1.5% and then adding a little bit more onto it, all caused because of only the water piece. Which then leads me to think, and what I've been hearing here is that there's some other activities going on that are cost effective on the other part of it. And I'm not sure that with the laydown we have here yet, I'm anticipating, hopefully it will show year over year for the next, let's say, 5 years or something, what the water increases are, just the liquid water. And then how much the cost of the infrastructure is going to be, and now determine in each of the out years if there has to be a raise over what we've already programmed of 1.5%. So far you've been talking about the water component, then you started talking about materials and things. But I don't see a laydown that puts it all together and says, no, this is what it really needs to be. I think it's kind of right now sort of a thought process on the labor and the materials that you're doing, but not an actual number. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Well, yeah, I think really that's gonna come out of the water system master plan update assessment analysis. A lot of that information that you need to do that firm assessment is gonna come out of that documentation.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a process for that. It wouldn't be something that's necessarily presented for a $20,000 rate increase or a $20,000 cost of assessment. I can tell you that the cost of taking care of the system from a regulatory standpoint is changing as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get, I've been battling a lot of water rights issues that I associate with this same maintenance program, taking care of the water system. it's been a real struggle, but I think we've got some good news coming on that front as well.
So I think what we have here is a catalyst of somebody else is raising the cost of material that we're getting. And now we have the opportunity, I think, to look at all the aspects of the water cost to our individual people, homeowners, and businesses, and try to put that all together at the same time. Rather than say, oh, the water rates are going up, and that's where we have to raise things. We get a little further down the road and say, oh, the material things we do not cost you more. Rather than having, piecemealing the thing, I think we can somehow lay that out over a couple of 3, 4, 5 years. So what that actually looks like on those two parts. Then we can have a better feel for whether the 3.1% is the best number.
I don't think I'll have that information available for you by the next meeting or the second meeting. That, like I said, I think if you want that type of analysis, you're gonna have to wait till the water system master plan update actually gets accomplished, because a lot of the information will be developed through that. That's not something we have in hand. I would say, in short, that our water fund is healthy, and that I wouldn't see a need for any modification of the process that I've observed since I've been here, and what the water fund looks like relative to what I know the disadvantages of the system to be today. Now, the disadvantages of the system and the weaknesses in the system will be re-examined and brought to the surface under the water system master plan update.
Now, you're going to have a number, what you're putting together here and you're going to bring forward in your future for us to vote on. What's the actual start date of your proposed beginning of the rate increase?
I will give it to May 1st.
May 1.
So it's upcoming close. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Thank you for your great work. Okay, we have no ordinances, readings, or adoptions that I know of. So we'll move on to staff report. City attorney.
I have nothing to report. Yeah. You guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, city manager.
I'm not sure I have much to report to you either. A couple of things. Some of that means it's pretty members. Registration will be opening soon for the League of Oregon Cities Conference, which I believe is in Eugene this year. And it's the last weekend in September. So if anyone is interested in attending, the city will pick up the cost of travel and training money budgeted for the city council. In your inbox at City Hall, a copy of Local Focus from League of Oregon Cities, and there's information in there about.
How many days does it run?
2 days.
2 days?
Yeah, it's just a weekend.
I'm gonna do that this year.
You know, if you haven't attended one of their conferences before, I think you'd find it pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it's very good. It's very good. Yeah.
And it's also a great opportunity to network from people from other cities and learn about things that folks are doing elsewhere. And yeah, take a look at the schedule and Local Focus. And if anyone wants to attend, let me know. We'll get it set up for you.
Do you know how many people we traditionally send or what we have budgeted for that?
I don't know how many people we traditionally send, or if anybody before you had ever attended. I don't know.
It's really worthwhile going. I think we should definitely go, Terry, and I would like to go again if we have the budget funds for that. But
My recollection, frankly, I wish Jeanette was here. She probably know off the top of her head.
Mhm.
My recollection is that we budgeted for all 7 members of the council to attend if they wanted to.
It's not that expensive. It's only
It's
$100.
not.
I mean, your travel and hotel will be more expensive than the conference registration. But I do think it's worthwhile if you haven't attended it yet.
It's just bunk house.
I like the tentatively buy.
I believe I think the city attorneys, I think I'm supposed to be helping organize our presentation here. Although you guys won't, unless you want to go legal.
What will you be presenting on?
We're going to be coming up with an agenda.
One other item that we probably shouldn't get into discussion tonight, but one of the things that I've been talking to Evan about is the fact that our city code does not have what's called a call-up provision for the council, and this actually arose around all these planning commission issues. Call-up basically means that the council has the right to, within the appeal period, call any planning commission decision before itself for review. In other words, you have the right to basically appeal any planning commission decision to yourselves. And this is, I don't know how common it is in other cities. I would say everyone else that I've worked for has had a call-up provision in the code. So I was a little surprised that you don't have one here. And I think that at some point in the future, the council probably should have a discussion because we're going to be going through a lot of code revisions in the land use code here in the very near future. And I think that's something that you should probably discuss, is whether the council would want to call up provision in the land use code. Do you know in your dealings with other cities how common that call up?
No, I actually am not aware of it, so.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Next thing on the agenda is the mayor and council comments and reports. Before we get into that, I'll just remind you that the item after that is to be in executive session. So as soon as we're finished with these comments, we'll vacate the room, so to speak, and go into the executive session. Any councilor have anything to say?
Let's start on this end. I've been asked, I think I mentioned last year I sat on RVCOG's budget process, which was really interesting, and they've asked me to sit in on that process again as a representative from Phoenix. I have it in my calendar, but I don't remember the exact date. Also, just a quick comment, we had our CPAC meeting, the CSU meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum. It's, a lot of people are, out of town. So we have our regularly occurring meeting, which is, I believe, off the top of my head, I said that with numbers. I think I want to say it's the 7th of next month. It's traditionally that Monday, so at 3 p.m. Do you have it in front of you?
I don't have my phone in front of me.
That's
I
fine.
want to say it's the 9th.
It's the second.
It's the
Second?
second?
Okay. Maybe it's the 2nd Monday. Anyway, I'll double check on that, so nobody quote me.
Oh, the second Monday would be the next Monday. So the 2nd of April is the first Monday.
Yeah, I don't think it's the 2nd.
I think it's the 9th.
I think it's the 9th too.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, numbers problems. Next time I'll bring a calendar. And, oh, there was something else, actually, a community member brought up to me, they were asking about the Phoenix election process and what it was like to run in the election. And one thing that they had mentioned that was kind of interesting is that Phoenix has, we have kind of unusual city council positions in that you don't run for like a seat or for a ward. It's just kind of run. So like, for example, in Talent, they have, you run for like seat 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. And then in Medford, they have wards, which are actual districts, and you have to be from that district to run in that district. In Phoenix, how I think it is, and maybe this isn't how it's supposed to be, but I think it's top 3. So you don't run for a position, you just run, and whoever gets the top 3 votes gets elected.
I thought we ran for specific seats.
No, I don't think so.
It's at large.
I
It's
thought
out
there
there.
were specific terms.
It is terms.
Terms.
So there are certain, so 3 councilors get elected at a time, right? But they're not numbered. So, and I think that we're relatively unique in that regard. I don't think, no, you don't think so? Talent doesn't make it like that in the ballot? Okay. Anyway, so I don't know if it's problematic. I just was curious if it's an issue that maybe we should do differently for a number of reasons. I just know that other communities in the valley, like I know that the closest ones like Medford and Talent don't do it that way. So I was curious in Phoenix if that was how we're supposed to be doing it, or if it just kind of happened that way. So does anybody have recommendations? Or?
There is no right or wrong way of doing it.
Okay.
And any system can work as long as the people who are in the system are committed to making it work, is the way I see it. I personally do not like the ward system because I think it encourages, I shouldn't say encourages, I think it has the potential to encourage the elected representative to vote parochial interests rather than citywide interests. And in my opinion, city councilors are elected to represent the entire city and not just the interests of their wards. The flip side of that is, and I think it's less of a problem in Phoenix because you're a small city, but in a large city, you do want to avoid a concentration of your elected body in one geographic area.
Right.
And so I think in Medford, it may be a little bit more important to have a ward system because the interests in the East Side Hills are much, much different than they are in the Southwest neighborhood of the city. I wouldn't see the ward system as being that critical in Phoenix. And then there are cities where the seats are numbered and you run for a numbered seat and you're only competing against other people who are running for that numbered seat. And again, it's not right or wrong, it's just the way some cities do it. The problem I see with that is that you can have one seat that you have 6 people running for and another seat that nobody runs for. Or you may have an incumbent who is never challenged, and of course, challenge is typically healthy in a democracy. So again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever is right for a particular community.
That's really helpful. That helps to clear that up. I guess just wanted to make sure that Phoenix has like a process that works and it's supposed to be that way. So yeah, that's helpful. And I guess we don't really need to do anything except for prepare like the city. I remember when I was running that you had to do the signatures and then turn them into the city. So the city handles the elections for the most part. Okay, so probably need to start doing that soon. And then I guess just a quick reminder to all the rest of the counselors, I haven't done my taxes yet, but for all of us, we need to do our SEL forms for both council and for urban renewal. And I guess for the planning commissioners in the room too, if you all have to do it again soon. It's just a way of saying this is, where your money comes from. So that's it for me.
Okay, I just want to remind everybody, because I actually did my own line the other day, and I thought, well, maybe everybody else has it. Okay, Cindy?
No comment.
Okay, you got my ethics thing, so. I'd like to end the meeting at this point, and we will take a 5-minute recess and go into executive session.
Thanks, all.
Yeah.